All right, back again. My name is Sean A. Stack. This is my book, Beyond Material Salvation, Rethinking Insolvency and Debtor Morality. I'm reading part 8.6 from part 8, The Credit Trap and Self-Exploitation. Part 8.6, Freedom to be Anything. We are no longer being watched and corrected from the outside. We are watching ourselves. We become our own internal overseers, micromanaging our behavior, our productivity, our diets, our time, our thoughts. We discipline ourselves not because someone forces us to, but because we believe that to be successful or even just worthy, we must. This is not the command of thou shalt not, the negative restriction of biopolitics. This is the glowing promise of you can, the subtle coercion of opportunity. Hahn describes this as a system where we are not simply citizens or workers, we are entrepreneurs of the self, constantly branding, improving, and marketing ourselves. We become projects in process, never quite finished, never quite enough. Always tweaking, always striving. And that's most insidious part about psychopolitics, is that it cloaks coercion in the language of freedom. We can do more. We can be better. We just have to hustle harder, optimize smarter, and push through our burnout until burnout becomes the baseline. In our current world, failure is not seen as the fault of the system or a burden of circumstance. It is a personal flaw, a moral failing, a lack of willpower or vision. And so when someone becomes insolvent, when they can no longer keep up, it isn't just a financial issue. It feels like a personal defeat, a collapse of character. But the truth, as Han helps us see, is that the system was built this way. This is not freedom. This is freedom weaponized, a freedom that binds tighter than any chain. Whereas in the past, there was always someone above us, an authority, a supervisor, a parent, a state, watching, directing, correcting us when we strayed from the predicted path. Today, the role has been internalized. We are no longer simply being watched, we are watching ourselves. This is the insidious genius of psychopolitics. Traditional domination was something we could name and resist. The boss clocked out at 5. The guard's eyes looked away. The teacher eventually dismissed the class. But now the boss lives inside of us. We are our own taskmaster, our own judge. We push ourselves not out of fear of punishment, but out of relentless demand for improvement. Why haven't I done more? Why can't I work harder? Why am I not enough? We're not so much people as we are projects. We are less laborer and more factory. We can be anything, and because of this freedom, we must be everything. This isn't liberation, this is self-exploitation, and it is terrifyingly efficient. There is no need for chains or guards when the prisoner becomes the warden. This self-surveillance is supercharged by digital technology, particularly through the seemingly benign platforms we use every day. Social media, fitness trackers, productivity apps. These tools don't just passively record our actions, they shape our desires. They reward performance, visibility, and engagement. They teach us what we want, what to fear missing out on, what it means to be successful or worthy or interesting. We don't just comply, we volunteer. We hand over vast amounts of our personal data, often without hesitation. We share our preferences, our routines, our location, our faces, our feelings. In doing so, we allow ourselves to be made more predictable and therefore more controllable. We are willingly constructing our own cages, one selfie, one like, one upload at a time. Jeremy Bentham's panopticon relied on the threat of being watched. Someone had to be in the tower, but in the digital panopticon of today, no guard is required. We share everything in real time, for free, often joyfully. There's no need for a centralized observer when we are all observing ourselves and each other. Surveillance has become self-imposed, internalized, and viral. And yet, while we may not fully know ourselves, we will remain confused, overwhelmed, and fragmented. The system that mines our data knows us intimately. It anticipates our next move. It feeds our curated content that mirrors back our fears and insecurities. We are trapped in a feedback loop of comparison, competition, and self-correction. And we call it connection. Of course, it's possible to remove ourselves from social media. We can delete the apps, abandon the platforms, go offline. But in doing so, we're not just walking away from a distraction, we're detaching from the primary mode of modern social existence. These platforms aren't just websites anymore, they're where sociality happens. To leave them is to risk disappearing, not just from view, but from relevance. We're social beings, and opting out of the dominant mode of social life carries with it penalty of isolation. And so, most of us stay. But we don't stay as ourselves, not entirely. We stay as something else, not as individual subject-based beings, but as personalized projects. We become something to be worked on, honed, branded. The self is no longer understood as something lived and experienced in the world. It is something produced for an audience. We curate it. We polish it. We refine it through filters and caption and metrics. Our identities become portfolios, our personalities, products. But what happens when this production is driven by systems that know us better than we know ourselves? When every post, every click, every hesitation of the cursor is tracked, quantified, and fed into predictive models, our choices begin to feel less like choices and more like reactions of what's already been prepared for us. The algorithm anticipates our desires and in doing so, subtly shapes us. This predictive feedback loop hollows out the space where freedom once lived. Freedom in its truest sense is not just the ability to choose among presented options, it's the ability to imagine, to risk, to encounter the unknown. But when everything we see has been pre-selected for us, when we are constantly being nudged by invisible hands toward the content, the products, and the personas most likely to engage us, we lose that relationship to the unknown. We cease to be subject to shape our world. Instead, we are projects, managed, measured, and endlessly refined. And this isn't just about aesthetics or lifestyle, it becomes existential. The question is no longer, who am I becoming, but how can I optimize what I'm projecting? Our data doesn't just reflect us, it defines us. And in our outsourcing the knowledge of ourselves to predictive systems, we risk trading away the very thing that makes us human, the messy, unpredictable, uncertain freedom of becoming. We now find ourselves surrounded by voices, loud, indignant voices, barking about freedom and the supposed tyranny of external rules. We're being controlled, they shout. We're being told what to do, what not to do. This is oppression. These cries often echo the framework of Michele Foucault's disciplinary society, where power is exercised externally through prohibitions, laws, institutions, and punishments, a world of thou shalt not. And to some extent, they're right. There are rules. But those who rage against the system often miss the subtlety of the shift. The world they're railing against is not the world we live in. That world, Foucault's disciplinary society, is fading. What's taken its place is something much more dangerous, much more seductive, and infinitely more effective. Byung warns us that we are no longer oppressed through blunt force of top-down authority. We're not living under the gaze of a disciplinarian with a whip. We're living inside Bentham's panopticon. But it has evolved. The guard tower is now inside our minds. The surveillance is internal. The gaze is self-imposed. It no longer says, you must obey. Instead, it whispers something far more intoxicating. You can do anything. Welcome to the Achievement Society. That was 8.6 of my book, Beyond Material Salvation. Rethinking Insolvency and Debtor Morality, now available in hard copy, paperback, Kindle, and audiobook. Hope all is well. Take care of yourselves out there. Bye-bye.